All right, Mr. Simmons, call to order. Well, that was called to order. How about roll call?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a new member, if you hadn't noticed. Michael Hill, this is his first meeting.
Hello.
And he is present. Elizabeth Hawks said she wouldn't be able to attend
But
tonight.
that's me.
Oh, okay.
Is there a new house? There's two of us?
I said Elizabeth Hawks.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you just couldn't pronounce my last name.
So Elizabeth Hausauer. Nicole Nesberg.
Here.
Tyler Lucas. Danielle Massey. Michelle Hazen indicated she wouldn't be able to attend. She's ill. Bill Warner.
Here.
Jay Reeves.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Okay, next item up would be the announcement. Nope. Adopted agenda. I'm skipping ahead. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item up is announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Section 30-3.5 of the Land Development Code establishes the Historic Preservation Board, including its composition and duties and authority. The Historic Preservation Board procedures are set forth in Section 30-4.28G of the Land Development Code. Appeals of Historic Preservation Board decisions are to the City Commission and must be filed within 14 days from the date the decision by the Historic Preservation Board is reduced to writing and served by certified or registered mail. The appeal procedure is specified in Section 30-4.28G of the Land Development Code.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Next item up would be approval of the minutes, first for December 3rd, 2019. Okay, is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next item up would be the minutes for February 4th, 2020. Second? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Carries. All right, next item up would be request to address the board for an item that's not already on the agenda. Anyone? Okay, seeing no one. That brings us to old business. And there is none. Brings us to new business. Ms. Thomas.
Petition HP-20-7, Selena Patterson, Power Production Management Incorporated, agent for Steve and Elizabeth Nitschberger. Certificate of appropriateness to install a roof-mounted photovoltaic solar system on a single-family house located at 550 Northeast 6th Avenue. This building is a contributing structure to the Northeast Residential Historic District.
Mr. Chairman, board members, Jason Simmons, Department of Sustainable Development. We have a recently enacted new title.
Again.
So this petition involves the applicant requesting approval of a 5.232 kilowatt solar voltaic system on the roof, and it's placed on the eastern roof surface of the principal structure. The modules are a flush mount type. They're installed on the same plane of the roof, and unfortunately, they're already installed because there was some mix-up at the beginning of the permitting process. They think what happened was they applied online and the contractor put in an address not in a historic district, and that address carried through, so nobody caught the fact that the property was in the historic district. So then near the end, when they were trying to get final inspections, somebody said, you've got to reconcile the addresses. And they said, oh, wait a minute, this is in the historic district. So we're here tonight to try to get a COA for what they've already installed. The system's been installed, constructed, but has not received final building permit approval. The location of the property is at 550 Northeast 6th Avenue. You see the location here. It's got residential single family 3 zoning. Now these are some of my crude pictures of the property. There's other work going on which they do have approvals for from previous COAs. This is the current front yard view. And then these are the shots of the solar array on the rooftop. So when we do have some guidelines that pertain to solar facilities, the system is installed on a contributing principal structure. The system is also located in a location that does affect the primary roof facade elevation. So those two things alone normally trigger review by the board. However, the installation will not result in the permanent loss of significant character-defining features of the historic resource, such as the existing roof lines or dormers. The installation is reversible. The system is flush to the roof or low profile to the extent feasible. And I think it blends into the surrounding features of the historic resource probably as much as it can. So the installation does conform to the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, particularly Standard 2 and Standard 9. The character of the property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize the property shall be avoided. And the new additions, exterior alterations, etc., did not destroy the historic materials that characterize the property. So with that, staff recommends approval of petition HP-20-7. I don't know if the representatives are here, but I'll try to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Does the board have any questions or comments?
Is there a reason why the panels couldn't be shifted so that they don't extend past the roof line of the house next door? So that they're less visible? They've got plenty of roof toward the back side of the house where they could have put the panels, but they're all shifted toward the front, towards 6th. In other words, see the fascia of the house next door that's coming down? Those first like 3 panels from the top down extend past the edge of the house next door, making them much more visible than if they had been placed behind. There's a lot of roof line that goes back there that isn't any more shaded than where it is now, where they could have placed those so they wouldn't be as visible. Not all of them, but the ones that are protruding past the house next door.
Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, since I'm not a solar installer, I can't really answer that question adequately.
They're not here represented on this when they're coming in after the fact for something they did without a permit?
Apparently not.
We informed them that it was advisable to attend the meeting,
So what
whether
do
the
we do?
contractor or the homeowner.
It can be a conditional approval, conditioned upon
Okay,
resetting the array.
You just so- for this.
Yes.
there you go. Okay.
Madam,
Should I
Mr.
repeat
Chair,
my
I would
question?
defer to the. Could you sign in, please?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
I have a
Elizabeth,
question.
restate your question.
My question was whether or not the panels could be shifted so that the first section of panels don't extend past the roof line of the house next door, so that they're more tucked back on portions of the roof that are further back from the street and less visible from 6th Street.
And on top of that, if you could state your name, that'd be helpful.
Good evening. My name is Alex Sokoloth. I'm the co-founder of Power Production Management, the solar contracting firm that has built this project. As it stands right now, this is the most optimal design for this array. If we were to shift things, it would cause some losses in productivity. It would be undesirable from energy generation standpoint.
Would it just require them to do additional panels to pick up the loss by moving it further back?
I wouldn't be able to answer that right away, but there would be some remedy that would have to be put in place.
It doesn't seem logical that the bottom tier of that array is closer to shade than moving to the south than it would be if it were moved to the north. I think that's the question at hand.
There's a vent right at the end of that panel and the chimney, so they can't slide it back.
That's probably the reason.
Yeah, it's a combination of orientation, tilt, and shading, and also feasibility of installation as far as what cost gets involved in fragmenting array.
So the shading on that roof structure is from the house next door, because the only tree is in the back, correct?
There should not be a shading from a house next door because it's about the same height.
Well, I guess that's my point. So if you, because there's plenty of roof line behind that chimney, that's in the exact same positioning to the house next door as the front half of the roof. So could, if they were required to take out the panels that are exceeding the face of the house next door and making it very, very visible from 6th Street, could those panels be relocated to the back portion of the roof and or additional panels added to make up for any loss that you're implying would happen if they had to shift things?
Theoretically, it is possible, but it would be undesirable from cost effectiveness and potentially additional shading by that tree as well. So.
Another question of mine is, you were unaware that this is a contributing structure in a historic district?
I was not aware of that until recent. Until day before yesterday, actually. Generally speaking, we've done hundreds of installations in various areas of the state. We haven't run into this particular issue. And generally, architectural reviews or historic reviews go very favorably for solar energy.
Yeah, when they're placed a little more appropriately.
Well, we did our best to satisfy customers' requirements for this installation in terms of making sure that they get the best benefit from clean renewable energy.
Was the architect involved with the planning of this?
No, this is simply engineered system, so no architect was involved in its design.
Was the architect aware that you were doing the solar panels on the roof?
No, this system was designed by a professional engineer without involvement of an architect.
We're just asking because the
Looks like
architect
it.
on the project is aware that the house is in a historic district and should have been able to.
The application was a month ago.
Yeah. But the architect's been on the project since the beginning.
Yeah, well, looks like it was done by an engineer.
The side of the roof that you guys have placed the panels on is much shorter and obstructed than the other side. Was that done largely because of shading issues?
Yes, and vicinity to the interconnection point as well. So it's a combination of factors. It's the financial feasibility of the project along with the shading.
I have a hard time understanding and believing that that is the only configuration that was viable.
We always strive and always design systems for the most optimal configuration. That's our only priority. We don't arbitrarily pick surfaces at any point.
Okay. Had you known that there were restrictions in? This is a hypothetical. And I guess it goes back to my original question. The system apparently, in terms of your response, could have been designed further back. They might have needed more panels to make up for the loss, but they could have done it that way. It would have cost more, but it could have been done that way. Am I correct in my understanding of that? And I'm
To
putting you on
fully
the
answer
spot a
your
little
question,
bit.
if we would have known in advance, we would have presumably argue for the best, lowest cost configuration still, because we believe that people have the right to produce clean energy, and we believe it's in everyone's interest.
I don't think we're disputing that, but there's a lot of empty roof line that runs along that same side.
Do you happen to have an aerial view of the property?
Mhm.
Could you please show it?
Well, we have it here. I don't know if Jay can you pull up the aerial, Jay?
If you have it in your records.
We have one here.
There's a plan view of the roof.
You can't really see it very well.
There's
Wait a minute. That's not
the aerial.
no, that's not the house.
This, which is the system layout.
Oh, okay, yeah, it is, because that's Crest, that's 6th Street. Yeah, so it's down this side here. And then they put it here, and there's all this backspace right here.
It's on a sheet that says site plan vicinity map. It has a logo of the Power Production Management. Sheet size is 11 by 17, so it would be Exhibit 5 in our records.
Can we get this to zoom or not?
Yeah, I don't know how much it's gonna help, but
Yeah, it's not really.
there you go.
Yeah, so if you look, you'll see that there is significant shading obstruction on both sides.
No. It's an overhead.
We also would have some shading from the chimney. We would have experienced additional losses on the west side. And obviously north is not favorable for solar exposure. So I can wholeheartedly state that it is in the best location possible, that we would have designed it the same way. Obviously we would have gone through this review process with you prior. I sincerely apologize for not doing it prior. We didn't know. But as far as location and as far as feasibility of the project, it is at its optimal, and any change would cause some financial repercussions, either in production or cost of equipment.
Okay,
Who's responsible for it if it has to get changed financially? The company or the homeowners? Because it was an oversight on the companies.
I wouldn't be able to answer that right away, but there would definitely be a discussion to that effect. Our contract states that it would be the homeowner, but we are not the kind of company that will, try to push costs off in this kind of situation. So it's, uncertain at this point how that would play out.
Have you been made aware of the historic district locations in the city of Gainesville? for
I'm
future
making
projects?
myself aware moving forward. Yes.
Where are you actually located?
So sorry.
Where is your company located?
We're at intersection of 6th and Northwest 8th Ave next to Police Department.
625 Northwest 8th.
Yes.
It's really just the panels that extend past the roof edge of the house next door. The one, I'm not being very articulate. It would be the very first one on the bottom left. I think it involves like 3 panels. If the first 3 panels were shifted back, then those panels don't extend past the house next door, making them a lot less visible from the street. So would there be any way to modify, oh, good, don't, girl, I can barely get through the computer, don't think.
I completely understand what you're saying. Yes, we would love to, but any movement from the bottom left corner into the bottom right, for example, there is a vent you can see right there that we had to avoid. The closer we get to that tree, the more shading we experience, and getting behind the chimney obviously will cause the shading from the chimney. So for the system size as it's designed and sold, there's really not a lot of opportunities to move it around.
Yeah, I mean, just speaking personally, I'm all for solar
Me too.
panels, but our historic preservation board, yeah, this is definitely something that would have come before us, and we would have made that recommendation, I believe, to not have it visible.
Or at least past the edge of the house next door.
I
There'd
mean,
be no way to make it not visible on
Right.
that house, but at
But
least
less
not
visible.
have it coming that far forward, yeah.
I mean, I don't want us to be in the market of saying what the cost is that is acceptable or not acceptable. That's not our job either, but I think, this is definitely something I think maybe we should come back to, say, evaluate, what other options there are. I mean, are we just gonna say, yep, it's done?
It's up to the board,
That's
because
right.
normally we have to say before it's done. In this case, it is done. The important thing to be aware of here is to make sure we're not setting a precedent for future ones that come.
Right. That's
And
the
that can be
problem.
done by making a motion very specific and calling it's not setting a precedent. But it's still up to the board which way they want to handle this.
The bottom panel goes past the roof line where it turns, and that's the part that's hardest to look at. If you see the drawing, I'm not sure what page this is. This is page, I think it's on page 30. If that bottom last panel on that, yeah. Actually, I thought you were gonna have the blinker. If the bottom panel that goes past the southeast roof line, if that one panel could get moved to the last row over there, it would give the panels the same flow as that roof line, and it might not be as jarring. Even though it does extend past the other, the neighboring house.
Where does the vent go? Can't they relocate the vent?
Well, that's
it's a
like a
fluid-
bathroom
it's a
vent. You
fluid
can't-
chimney.
Is it, I can't see it.
It's a brick fluid chimney.
Well, there's a
Oh,
vent
it
also.
is? It looks like a bathroom vent to me.
Off-ridge vent chimney.
I'm not, I don't think he's talking about the brick, is he? He's talking about, is there another vent in the roof?
That's in line with the panels.
Right at the end of the panels.
Right.
That's
but-
why they started the panels where they
But what
did.
kind of vent is it?
It's a pipe,
The vented roof.
like bathroom vent.
Okay.
Okay.
What's the feasibility of moving that panel, and is it possible that you could do a comparison and bring this back to the board, so that at least the line of the panels is in line with the roof line instead of it stepping off in a awkward angle like that? Compare the cost of fixing it versus what you're losing in efficiency.
Well, it would also end up costing an installation as well, having to.
I understand that, but if we had numbers in front of us and a possible option that we could actually discuss other than just sitting here saying, oops, it's done and there's nothing we can do about it, so here it is.
Yeah, right now we have a yes or no in front of us, and we're looking, I think, for an option.
The numbers would give us a better ability to say, where we're going with this.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that any change will in some way hinder the project. I'm making it very clear. And I wanted to ask you, do you, ladies and gentlemen, happen to be familiar with the Solar Rights Act?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And how does your review board understand or interpret that act with respect to changes that can hurt the project?
We are aware that we cannot deny a solar array, but we can comment and give direction to how it's put in.
If I'm not,
If it compromises the integrity of the location.
if such change wouldn't introduce additional cost or loss in efficiency, I would absolutely be flexible and would love to help. I believe that in this particular situation, despite the error in timing, we're in a situation where any change would affect the project, and I think it's fairly clear. In which case, I'd like to invoke the Civil Rights Act and say that this is the only configuration for this particular system. Any changes will cause some sort of material loss to the project.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to refer it to city legal. Okay?
How about if we continue this and refer to it?
Yeah, we'll have to continue it. Yes, I'd be in.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Regard to.
Mr. Chairman,
HPV.
Yes.
you need to open it up to the public.
Okay.
Do what?
Open for public.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, I'd like to open it for any public comment. Nope, seeing none?
Okay, I will move petition HP 20-00007 to continue, and in the meantime, refer to city legal.
I second that motion.
Okay. And it's your right to invoke that, but we want to see as a board where we stand. That's where we go from here.
I completely understand. I
Sure.
respect the board.
And it's just continued until we can get some clarification.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
We need to
vote.
vote on this.
Yeah, we need to-
Yes, we do need to vote.
Aye.
All in favor and all,
Aye.
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 any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
Okay, petition HP 20-8 and HP 20-22, Jay Reeves, agent for Oscar Sanchez, and Lida Rodriguez Tassif, owners, certificate of appropriateness and a Part 1 ad valorem tax exemption application for additions to a single-family dwelling and a roof alteration to a garage located at 1021 Northeast 4th Street. This building is a contributing structure to the Northeast Residential Historic District.
Okay, Bill will be taking over.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Vice Chairman. For this project, the applicant is proposing to build 2 additions onto the existing house. One will be on the north end of the house, which will be at the front of the house, extending about 15 feet to the north. That will house the den and a new kitchen. The other addition will be in the rear, extending to the east for about 18 feet. That addition is for a master bathroom. There's also a detached garage that's on the property, which currently has a flat roof. This project will put in a new conventionally framed gable roof that would match the style of the contributing structure of the house. So again, the property is at 825 Northeast 5th Avenue. It's got residential single-family zoning on about a 1/4 acre of a lot. So here you see just some of the general pictures. Here's the front elevation of the house from the street. Here's the garage with the flat roof. So sort of a side view of the, of the property, of the house, between the house and the garage. Let's see, it's a one-story gable front and wing house, built in 1948 according to Alachua County Property Appraiser's Office. It's a single-story flat, there's also a single-story flat-roofed, non-contributing garage that has a studio that's on the side of the principal structure. The house has masonry, bearing wall, brick-shaped concrete blocks, and is considered an early ranch style. The roof has asphalt shingles over a low-pitched roof, structured gable roof. The interior walls are rough stucco plaster over concrete masonry unit blocks. The doors are wood, and the primarily 3/1 windows with the house are also wood. So the work that's proposed for the project includes adding the additions that would also have a CMU block with architectural shingle roofs that match the pitch of the existing house. The project intends to reuse the existing wood windows that are displaced by the additions. The gable siding on the additions will be wood shiplap siding to match the existing siding on the house. The old window openings will be entryways between the rooms in the historic house and the addition. And they'll replace the front door, the current front door, with a new one. There's right now on the contributing structure itself, there's vinyl siding on the gables that will be removed in order to expose the wood that's existing underneath. In the back, there'll be a new French doors for one of the additions for the den and the kitchen, and there'll also be another 2 set of metal French doors added to the rear of the existing structure that provide access to the courtyard. The garage with the studio will have a new gable roof to match the house, and there's an existing door on the north side of the garage that would be removed and infilled with CMU block. The size of the den and kitchen addition, it's 15 feet by 29 feet or 435 square feet. The size of the master bathroom addition is 18 by 13.5 feet, which is 243 square feet. So this is a survey/site plan of the property. Here's 5th Street here. You see the principal structure located here with the accessory garage in this location. You see these are the additions in this shade. So this is the den kitchen addition here and the master bathroom addition back here. And here, floor plans showing the master bathroom addition in the back of the house, which will not be visible from the right-of-way. And then the den and the kitchen addition on the north side of the house. These are elevations. So this is the west elevation showing the front of the house with the garage to the side. Here's the east elevation where you see here the master bathroom addition here. Here's just some pictures, again, around the property. This is the front. These are front elevation shots. This is the elevation in the rear of the property. This is the side, I guess the south side of the garage. And you see some other views here. So in review, the new bathroom addition, it's on the east side of the house and will not be visible from the street. It's 1 story in height and it's lower in height than the historic house. The windows on the addition are to be relocated windows from the existing house, thus maintaining the look and material of the existing 3/1 windows. The face of the existing garage structure along Northeast 4th Street will change because of the new garage roof structure. The gable end will now face the street, as well as a new carriage-style roll-up door that would replace the existing garage door. The gable end will have a wood siding to match the house. The new garage will have architectural shingles to match the roof of the principal structure. And staff feels that the changes to the garage structure will be compatible with the contributing house structure and improve the view of the garage from the street. This is also a request for an ad valorem tax exemption of Part 1. So the property is eligible for the ad valorem tax exemption because it is a contributing property to the Northeast Historic District. Section 30-25-65 of the Code of Ordinances authorizes ad valorem tax exemptions. The board must make a determination that the proposed improvements are consistent with the guidelines and are therefore eligible improvements. And staff finds that the proposed improvements are consistent with the standards for rehabilitation and are such eligible improvements. So with that, staff recommends approval of petition HP-20-8 for a COA for the actual work to be done on the property with the following conditions. Provide information sheets for the proposed French doors, the front door, the carriage-style roll-up door, and the roofing material, and notify staff of any changes during construction. And then staff recommends approval of petition HP-20-22 for a Part 1 ad valorem tax exemption based on the following: that the property is an eligible property because it is a contributing structure, and the proposed improvements are eligible improvements. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, and the agent is also available if need be.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Do we have any questions of staff?
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to ask if I could go ahead and share a few details that kind of may give everybody a little more clarification on it. The construction is somewhat unique. It's an 8-inch wide concrete block on the exterior that is 4 inches tall, so a half block, but it's only 12 inches long. And the way the joints are treated on the outside is very flush and very crude. So there are no rake joints, so it almost appears to be a brick house, when in fact it's really not. And the closest I could come to it was a 16-inch, 4-inch half height block that's 8 inches wide. And I think as long as the mortar joints and everything are treated the same, I think it'll be about as compatible as you can get. The other thing that's a little unusual about it is the interior walls are also concrete block, 4-inch. So it's a interesting and unique structure. Almost looks like it could have been home built. And well, it's like I said, it's unique. Now the front door currently, it has 3 glass lights. It's kind of loosely craftsman, but it's plywood. It's very cheaply made. What we propose to do, once I find the correct door to submit to Mr. Simmons, is find a really nice craftsman reproduction door, and it'll be wood. Now the French doors on the rear, which are new, and you may have noticed there was a little bump out of a kitchen in the building that was an old closed-in porch that was extended out. When they moved the kitchen at some point is what happened. And you can see it down there with the one window where the roof line changes. That addition is going to come off the building. And the concrete wall is still inside. It's a tiny little kitchen is what it is, because it was at one point a porch, but I don't even think it was original to the building. So that would clean up the back elevations, and we have a series of, I think it's five sets of French doors in the back that are still under discussion as far as which ones we're using, because the clients wanted to use one out of California, which is a beautiful bronze door with a very thin profile, very high end, 8 foot tall. And I think on this house it would work because you couldn't see it from the front, and they're going to put a pool in, so it gives them that courtyard feel that they're after. Right now, we're talking to somebody in Miami that can maybe do a similar type door. The problem we're going to have is finding board approval numbers and testing and all that. So that'll have to come back to Mr. Simpson. But that's the intent, is that we go with a metal door or something more durable than a wood French door, because we don't want to use fiberglass French doors, because we're all about getting as much glass as possible back there. So it's a little unique, but it's not something that would affect the character of the house from the street.
But none of that is fairly atypical of early French styles.
No, given the period when this was built, it could have had metal casement windows.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think it's appropriate in a sense.
Right.
It's a very simple structure.
Any further question or comment?
I just have a curiosity question. Why is 6/6 in the garage when it's?
I believe the garage and the house were built at two different times.
So those aren't new windows that are going in, those
They're
are
old.
the existing, okay.
Those are the existing in that building, and that incidentally is standard 8-inch concrete block with 6/6 windows. So I'm not sure which one came first, but one of them did.
It's a nice plan.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this application? Okay, may I hear a motion?
Motion to approve 191072, HP 20-8, HP 20-22 with staff recommendations.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved.
One abstention.
Petition HP-20-9. Jay Reeves, agent for Tim Guerin and Bart Birdsall, owners. Certificate of appropriateness to build an accessory structure for a single-family dwelling located at 825 Northeast 5th Avenue. The principal structure and the accessory building will be non-contributing structures to the Northeast Residential Historic District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman. This property is located at 825 Northeast 5th Avenue in the Northeast Historic District. The applicants are proposing to build a 1.5-story arts and crafts style accessory structure with a garage on the first floor and guest quarters on the second floor. It will be a wood frame building, footprint of 24 by 35 feet or 840 square feet, a 2-car garage, stairs, an elevator, a storage room, and then a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom guest unit on the floor above the garage. The proposal has to get HPD approval because the building is over 1 story in height and the square footage exceeds 400 square feet in area. The map shows the location outlined in gray. It's got residential single-family 2 zoning on a 0.35 acre property. Now, the principal structure on the site is a non-contributing structure as it was built only back in 2007, so it's still a fairly new principal structure. So the scope of the work involved for the accessory structure will be using hardy plank and shingle walls. There'll be Marvin integrity windows, which are wood-clad type windows, also wood doors. Architectural shingles to match the roof of the house will be the roof type for the accessory structure. They'll be adding carriage-style garage doors, and they'll have to build a driveway to access the new structure from Northeast 5th Avenue. So here's like a site plan here, and then you've got the floor plans over here, the first floor is located here, with the garage, and then some of the storage units. You see the porch located here. On the second floor, you've got a balcony in that, above that porch area with the guest unit. And here's the site plans. So here's the street out here with the driveway that would go through the gates and access the building here. These are some of the elevations. So this is the north elevation, the east, the south elevation, and the west elevation. So you see the carriage doors located here.
Mr. Simmons, excuse me, I think north and south are backwards. Labeled backwards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so, yes, because, yes, this is on the south side of the road. So this would be the north elevation here. This would be the south elevation here.
Correct.
So here's some pictures of the contributing, the non-contributing structure. You see the house here, and this is the side where the driveway will be built to access the accessory structure, which would be built back in this area or back here in this shot. So as far as the guidelines are concerned, well, okay, the floor plan indicates a sink and a refrigerator in the wet bar area of the guest suite on the second story, which is allowed. Facilities for the preparation, storage, and keeping of food for consumption within the premises, like a kitchen, shall cause a unit to be construed as a single dwelling unit. That's not allowed in the residential single-family zoning districts in the city at this time. So one of the staff conditions is that this cannot turn into another dwelling unit by the addition of a kitchen or kitchen-type facility in that guest suite. As far as the other guidelines, the garage and guest suite are located behind the house near the rear side yard of the property, and it will be visible from the street. However, the distance from the property line to the front of the proposed structure is about 108 feet, which minimizes the visual impact on the street. The materials and textures proposed for the addition or for the auxiliary structure are consistent with the principal building, such as the hardy plank siding. The roof type and pitch are similar to the existing house. The main windows proposed on the new structure are the same 6/1 style, which match the main windows on the house. And the new addition will be consistent with Standard 9 in that it shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work is differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. Of course, this is a non-contributing building, so, but it's still a compatible structure with the principal structure that was built. Let's see. Let me get to this first. So, staff's recommendation is approval of HP-20-9 with the following conditions. That the accessory building cannot be used as an accessory dwelling unit, which is not an allowed use in the RSF2 zoning district. Provide information sheets for the proposed windows and roofing material, and notify staff of any changes during construction. If I can have the overhead, please. believe the applicants provided some information. There's right now on the property, I think you saw it in the pictures, there's a white picket fence, I believe is located in this location. And the idea is you have the driveway, you go through some gates and access the garage back here. What's being proposed now by the applicants is to replace this picket fence with these brick piers on either side, and then have a metal fence or metal gate in the middle there. And that would be the fence that would replace the existing picket fence. So I believe they would want that, or this proposal, to also be part of your review and approval if you so choose. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Your agent is here, or the agent is here, and I believe the homeowners are also here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Do we, what? Okay, do we have questions of staff?
Yes, I have a question. I'm seeing three different plans here. I'm seeing one plan that has a single garage door, one plan that Jason put up that had two garage doors, and a third plan that's got an interior staircase. The other two, the first one has a circular staircase, the second one has a squared off wooden staircase. Which plan, what plan are we
Mr.
voting
Chairman.
on?
Yeah.
There's like three different.
I don't
things.
know exactly what she's looking at, but I did include an old COA
That
from
was an old
previous
COA
years.
for an
Okay,
originally
so I'm
designed
looking at
garage.
this one.
That was the garage that was designed when the house was built. It
Okay.
never happened.
Okay, so we're looking at the one that's got an interior staircase now? Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
There's way too many plans in here.
You're very observant.
Oh, well, I was getting really confused.
Too much information will do
Yeah.
that. Okay, again, any questions of staff?
What's the height of the new wall or fence they're proposing?
It would match the existing picket fence.
So it's short.
Yeah, it's not a
Okay.
tall fence, no.
I believe it.
It's you.
It's either 36 or 42.
Yeah, the existing wood fence
Do you
is
all know?
36 inches.
I think it's 36. Yeah. What is yours, Daniel? Yours is 48? Okay.
Okay. Does the applicant wish to speak to this item? Okay, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this item? Okay, seeing no further question, may I have a motion?
I have one question, Billy, that you
Okay.
can probably answer. We do fences then? Part of the
Oh, yes.
purview
Yeah,
is
yeah,
because
oh, yeah.
that's what we were just talking about
Yeah,
before?
well, that's a problem there.
Great. I think that's gonna look way better than a picket fence.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure.
All right, would someone like to make a motion?
I'm sorry, one more question. Are the pillars going to be brick or stone to match the house?
They are going to be brick, correct?
Right, there's brick on the patio.
What?
State your name, please.
Tim Guerin.
Yes.
Okay. There's brick on the back patio, and there's brick on the front porch. So the house is a combination of brick and stone.
And the brick piers will be slightly taller than the main line of the fence.
And by making them brick, I can make them smaller
Right.
than the stone. So.
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you for stating your name. Also
Thank
sign
you.
in, please. Okay,
And also the fence is the same height as the neighbor's fence, which I think was about 40 inches.
I want to say 42 is what I'm thinking. Are you sure?
Yes.
Your posts are probably a little
Within
taller.
the guidelines of 40.
Okay.
All right.
would someone like to make a motion?
Don't look at me, I'm too confused today.
Well, I can't do
Go
it.
for it.
Make a motion for approval?
Yeah, you have to read off the name of the petition.
Hold on, hold up here. Find it. HB 20.
I don't think you have it right. There you go.
Make a motion of approval for petition HB 20-9 for Jim Reeve, agent Tim Guerin, and Barb Briswell, the owners.
What staff recommendations? Yeah, just say that.
Yeah, staff recommends an approval. Staff recommendations.
Are we including the fence alteration in that?
Yes, I'm correct. We are, right? Yes. Hey, sorry. Staff recommends that approval of the application with fence alterations.
Okay, we have a motion?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Petition HP 20-10, Shane Smalley, Atlantic Roofing and Exteriors, agent for Barbara Watson, owner. Certificate of appropriateness to re-roof a single-family dwelling with a metal roof, located at 426 Northwest 7th Avenue. This building is a non-contributing structure to the Pleasant Street Historic District.
Try my best.
Mr. Chairman, board members. So this property, again, at 426 Northwest 7th Avenue is a non-contributing structure in the Pleasant Street Historic District. The applicant is proposing to install an ultra-rib metal roofing system in Galvalume with 26-gauge metal panels over 15 over 32-inch plywood to replace the existing gray 3-tab shingles. The house was built in 1997, so again, it's a non-contributing structure in the Pleasant Street District. It's the location of the property. It's got RC zoning on 0.08 acres of land. See, the existing house is a two-story, non-contributing structure. It's a fairly large house, over 2,300 square feet. There's an existing gable hip roof that has the 3-tab asphalt shingles. So that's the shot of the house. And the same structure from another angle. Now, this house is the neighboring property to the east at 412 Northwest 7th Avenue. Some years ago, this received approval for a metal roof. So what's proposed is replacing the existing shingles with an ultra-rib metal roofing system. Now, the board approves changes in material in roofing on a case-by-case basis. The rib-style metal roofing has not been found to be inappropriate for residential use, and a variety of metal roof types are evident in Pleasant Street. A couple of you might remember right across the street from this property, they came to the board to re-roof the shingles to an ultra-rib metal, and that did receive a COA. And these shots show some of the nearby properties in the area that have metal roofing of various types. You see, this is right across the street at 425 Northwest 7th Avenue. You've got the 300 block of 7th Avenue with various metal roofing. I believe this is like a 3V crimp, which is not uncommon in the Pleasant Street District. So, let's see. Yeah, the house located across the street here has a sheet metal 3V crimp roof. The house at 427, oh, that's, yeah. received a COA for an ultra rib. Oh, the house, it's not pictured here, but the house that came to the board back in, I believe it was 2016, received an ultra rib galvalume metal roof. Let's see. And then, as shown earlier, the non-contributing structure at 412 7th Avenue is the same architectural style as the subject property and received a COA for the installation of a 26-gauge rib-style metal roof. Because of the great variety of roofing materials in the area, plus the fact that this is a non-contributing structure to the district, staff is recommending approval of HP 20-10 with the following condition: that the roof finish be galvalume or a light to medium gray paint finish. And they are actually proposing the galvalume. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Any questions of the board?
I have a single question for Jason. The sentence, it should be noted that rib-style metal roofing has not been found to be inappropriate for residential use. Why wouldn't you just say it's appropriate for residential use? Is that too
Because-
forceful?
Mr. Chairman, as some of you know, that depends on the district. In the duck pond, the board has made it clear that the only metal roofing they feel is most appropriate is the standing seam metal roof.
Okay.
So this would be a non-starter in the duck pond district.
Thank you.
On the other hand, with the other districts, you have such a wide variety that
Yeah.
Thanks, that makes sense.
Okay. Any further questions? Mr. Simmons? Anyone from the audience? Okay,
I can make this motion.
Yeah, do it.
This is an easy one.
go for it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve HP 20-10 as it stands.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Got two. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
Petition HP 20-14, Ryan Duffy, owner. Certificate of appropriateness to install a fence in the side and rear yard of a single-family dwelling located at 610 Northeast Boulevard. This building is a contributing structure to the Northeast Residential Historic District.
Mr. Chairman, so it's 610 Northeast Boulevard. The applicant is proposing to replace an existing 6-foot privacy fence that currently runs in the back of the house for about 30 feet. And they would replace that with a new 6-foot privacy fence that would be installed to enclose the backyard of the property. The fence would be a board-on-board style with a maximum height of 6 feet. Now, the plans, and we'll see that on the next few slides, indicate that the fence will run to the existing public sidewalk along Northeast 6th Street and then run for 22 feet along the sidewalk until turning back towards the house. This is a corner lot, so it has, obviously a visible front area and also a highly visible side yard, which provides visual visual view into the backyard as well. So
Jason, I think you mean Northeast 6th Avenue, not street.
it's yes, for the corner street. Yeah, so the sidewalk would run to the existing public sidewalk along Northeast 6th Avenue and run for 22 feet along there until turning back towards the house. So here's the property here, Northeast Boulevard here, Northeast 6th Avenue, residential single-family 3 zoning on about 0.15 acres of land. The house is a 2-story, a stucco troweled prairie-style single-family dwelling, which is known as the Fagan House. It's a large house, over 2,800 square feet. It's at that intersection of Northeast Boulevard and Northeast 6th Avenue. The site file indicates that this represents a typical Gainesville house of the 1920s, and the house appears on the 1928 Sanborn map. So here's the site plan that sort of shows the fence layout. So you got the house here, and so you would have one end of the fence attached here, running about 70 feet towards the sidewalk, and then 22 feet along the sidewalk along 6th Avenue, and then back towards the house here. There would be a gate located in this location, 6 foot high would be the height of the fence. It would be this style of fence, a board on board. And then you see some of these shots just showing the existing fence that's currently in the back of the house. And again, another shot of the back of the house, and that's just the fencing contract also showing sort of the layout of the fence proposed. And here are some of the views of the side yard along Northeast 6th Avenue. So Northeast Boulevard would be like over here in this picture. So this is directly along 6th Avenue, and then this, again, 6th Avenue. And if you were to stand here, you would be looking into the backyard of the property. Now, in your staff report and backup, there is an addendum that was provided by the applicant homeowner to explain why they felt it was necessary to have the style of fence in that location, based on, security concerns because of young children on the property, and also some of the precedents that had been set earlier concerning the construction of these types of privacy fences up to and along existing sidewalks. So you see, this is the property at 541 Northeast Boulevard. Here you got the property at 634 Northeast Boulevard. And here you have a corner lot at 841 Northeast Boulevard. Now, in the guidelines, there are staff-approved guidelines about fences and walls extending into the front yard beyond the front wall of the house, the materials that it needs to be made of, and again, wood is one of those materials. But generally, it would have to be no greater than 48 inches tall if mostly open, or no greater than 36 inches tall if mostly closed. Again, talks about some design elements like vertical elements to break up the repetitions of the picket fence. Must comply with AASHTO standards about vision triangles at intersections and those sorts of things. Further guidelines talk about fence lines and walls when adjacent to historic properties that also have fence lines and walls. Fences in backyards can be no more than 6 feet in height and constructed of wood or masonry. And you see, there's no board approval guidelines at all unless the conditions for staff approval haven't been met. So that's why we're here tonight. They're proposing, 6 foot high, closed privacy fence along the highly visible side of Northeast 6th Avenue. Now not we, but a couple of board members may remember, I believe it was 2015 or 2016, there was a similar request to have, a closed 6-foot tall fence right up along the sidewalk. There was fairly extensive discussion about not wanting a wall type structure right up to the sidewalk next to the pedestrians. So at that time, the board recommended that, or indicated that they would not be too opposed to a 4-foot high solid fence. And then for the remaining 2 feet, there would be some sort of opening, like a lattice type facility, so that there would be some sort of opening, so you wouldn't have that large sort of wall-like structure next to you if you're the pedestrian. In light of that request back then, staff has recommended that approval of HP-20-14 with the following conditions: that the portion of the fence along Northeast 6th Avenue can be solid for up to 4 feet in height, and then have a more open design for the remaining 2 feet in height, for a total of no more than 6 feet in height. And the portion of the fence along Northeast 6th Avenue should be set back at least 5 feet from the back of the sidewalk. Part of that reasoning is, again, there's the question of how, if at some point you've got to do sidewalk repairs or something in the future that might indicate that fence would have to move, so that's always safer to have it somewhat off the property line if possible. And the 5 feet, would again provide an open feeling along the sidewalk area. And it's a staff recommendation. I'm sure there's room for discussion. The applicant is here to make his case for what he's proposing to do, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Would you guys like to speak to the issue? Or those guys?
Yeah.
Okay. State your name and sign in when you get a chance.
I've never been to one of these. A little bit intimidating.
Sorry about that.
So we just have a new child, 1.5 years old, and we've had a number of incidents in our yard. So we saw like these houses around us. So could you go back to the other ones, the houses that were up there? So the one on the top is just literally across the street from us. So it's basically identical setup to ours, which would be coming in off the side to the sidewalk and close in the back. Also on 6th Avenue, also the house address being on the boulevard. That's the same thing for the 634 house. The 841 house, the fence is actually, the house is on the boulevard, but the fence is not on the boulevard. So based on those precedents, we kind of felt like we wanted to see if this could be approved as an option for us. Like it would be much better for us as a family to have that. So I don't know what other reasons I would say, but just that was why we wanted to ask to see if we can get it approved.
Okay. Board comment?
Yeah, so I'll start. The past couple of years, we've had a proliferation of barricade fencing in the historic district, both approved and not approved, that got built and is still in place. And in this case, being a corner lot, the side facing 6th Avenue is as important as what faces Boulevard. I think it's very important for the board to come back to the guidelines that we have, that have been badly abused, and insist that the element south of the south wall of the house conform in terms of openness to 36 inches. I don't have a problem with the barricade approach immediately west of and north of the line of the south elevation of the house. But going into the yard with yet another 6-foot barricade fence would continue a very negative trend for the neighborhood. That's my statement.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I agree, and I hate, you hate to be a Scrooge, but we just have people who put fences up without getting permission, and then those fences stand as sort of a testament, and then it puts us in a really, really bad position. I have to agree with Bill.
So I asked the applicant, is that a condition that you can live with?
Probably not. So, I mean, is it possible to, like, go with, if we pushed it back a little bit, would that change,
No.
as was suggested?
No, I don't think that there should be a 6-foot fence, especially a barricade fence, south of the south elevation of the house.
May I ask you one question?
Yeah.
Where is the property? You have the fence shows that it's running basically into the back of the house. I know you're on a really tight lot there, but where's your property line to the west?
It's, the fence runs basically on the property line a little
You
bit.
have basically a 0 lot line in your backyard,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, just out of like curiosity, like, would you say that these 3 fences up here were installed unapproved?
It's possible.
Because this one on the right looks pretty new.
We've had some that have been staff approved that should have come before the board
Okay.
that would have never been approved.
I think the one in the bottom corner, you're referring to that one. That was a swimming pool in that section,
Okay,
and I think that was the reason.
okay.
But I don't recall if it was a board or staff approved. I think it did, and I think the condition was mainly that it was a pool.
And if we had like a lattice, like he was suggesting, is that a possibility to have it be higher?
Mm,
You mean 8 feet?
No,
No, no.
Like,
no.
4 feet solid
Yeah.
and 2 feet semi-open.
Yeah.
Have you considered shrubs and whatnot as options to increase the privacy above what's already allowed? Because
yeah,
there's-
our people across the street had a metal fence and have shrubs around it. Yeah, I guess that would be like a worst case scenario, just because I think that would be a pretty massive project in terms of time and cost. So, yes, we've seen that. I certainly know that exists.
Compared to the cost of a fence of the height that you're suggesting, I don't think it's gonna cost you more money to put in shrubbery than it is gonna be for the
Okay.
increased height. I just installed a fence for the similar reason that you're suggesting. I have a 2-year-old. The fence I put in is 48 inches high. It's within the code, and it's the 50% see-through. And I'm putting the shrubbery to add some privacy as well. But the problem that we're having with these walls that are coming up is definitely an issue, and so I put one
I
up.
totally
Yeah,
understand.
I-
Believe me,
I stuck
believe me,
with it.
I understand.
I would
completely.
love to have a 6-foot wall to have privacy in my backyard, but there's a code to try to keep things a certain way for
Yep.
a reason, and
And it makes it harder when people don't do it the right way, like you're trying to do it the right way. It makes it much more difficult when people don't do it the right way. And put it
Right.
up in the dead of night, you know, and then, or
Yep.
there's a snafu and it's, yeah. So it's,
We appreciate that you came here, and we apologize that there are some other fences that have gone up recently that do not fit the code, that did not come before us, and that we're now out of our power to have removed.
All right, well, I tried.
you did.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
A ficus hedge.
See you around the neighborhood.
Always look at other options and bring it back.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, the idea of having shrubbery along the sidewalk and the fence set back a little, I would explore that again.
And just so I can be clear, like, it's totally fine to have the 6-foot fence along the back, correct?
Yeah,
Correct.
you're
So it's
welcome.
really just what's wrapping
From-
around?
From the point, the south,
Okay.
if you project your south wall elevation back, from there north, no problem.
Okay.
There are some nice trees that you could plant at an interval that will fill out nicely and give you that higher,
Okay.
you know,
Yep.
privacy that you're looking
Yep.
for.
Perhaps to save you the going through this again, one of the options before us is simply to continue this while you give what all you've just exposed yourself to here some thought,
Mhm.
kind of relax, come at it again, a little different perspective.
Okay.
And then just simply come before us again.
Sounds good. I'll talk with my wife and see what we can come up with.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to continue,
Okay.
so you're not starting all over.
Awesome. Thanks for hearing it.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay,
You gonna make that motion?
I'm gonna move to HP 2010 to continue.
I think it might be 14.
I thought it was Duffy.
It is 14.
2014.
Huh?
2014.
All right. So 14, is that Duffy too? Oh, no. Oh, that's at the bottom of it, okay. Right here, this is at the bottom of all this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. 14 to continue.
I'm gonna second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment? Any public comment? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Continued.
All right.
Petition HP 20-16. Hopefully I get this name right. Kehuahu owner, Part 1 and Part 2 ad valorem tax exemption for re-roof, ramp, and improvements to the Bailey House located at 1121 Northwest 6th Street. This building is individually listed on the local and National Register of Historic Places.
Mr. Chairman and board members, this is not for any new work to be done on the Bailey House. A couple of years ago, you saw, the board saw the COA for the proposed re-roof of the building. They had initially come in wanting to do 5V crimp. The board said no, and so, and approved it with a requirement that the roofing be standing seam with a galvalume or light to medium gray finish, which is eventually what was put onto the building. Now this is the Bailey House, built in 1854, according to the property appraiser's office. It's one of, if not the oldest house in Alachua County. It's individually listed on the local and national register of historic places. So in 2016, the applicant requested a COA for re-roof to a metal roof. The board approved that petition in July of 2016 with the condition that it be a standing seam type metal roof. No action was taken immediately thereafter, so the COA lapsed. They came back in April of 2018 to renew the previously approved COA for the re-roof. So this is the property location at 1121 Northwest 6th Street. It's got a PD or Plan Development zoning. And this is a fairly recent view of the property. The board felt that the standing seam metal roof was the most appropriate for this house because of its architectural and historical significance. Here are just some other aerials showing the house with the metal roofing. Also, as part of that COA, there was also an approval of work on a ramp. They wanted to improve the handicap ramp, which is in the back of the house and is not visible from the right-of-way, but that was also part of the COA approval. So I believe at this point, apparently the property value of the house or the property has gone up enough to where the tax bite has gotten noticed by the owner. And so they're requesting that, that this get a Part 1 and Part 2 ad valorem tax exemption. So this is a request to find that the property is eligible for ad valorem tax exemption because it is a contributing property that's individually listed on the local and national register of historic places. There needs to be a finding under section 25-65 that the proposed improvement is consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings and is therefore an eligible improvement. A re-roof and improvement of the handicap ramp are eligible improvements. Staff makes that finding. The proposed work met the standards and they maintained the overall character of the house. So with that, staff recommends approval of HP 20-16 for the Part 1 and Part 2 ad valorem tax exemption application based upon the previous approval of petition HP-16-51. Now, it was my understanding that there was also some improvements on the interior, but I never got any pictures or anything. So this is for what the board reviewed with the HP 1651, which is the re-roof and the improvement or the handicap ramp in the back of the property, or the back of the house. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
To be clear, is this persimmon?
Yes.
This is persimmon, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's the school part and where
Yeah,
I
it's the school
put
part.
that.
Any other questions of the board? Okay.
I'm a little confused about one thing.
Yes.
So I was reading through it. Has the roof always been asphalt or was it tin at one point?
It's never been 10.
Never been tin or metal of any sort?
Really?
Would have been originally wood shingle
Right.
and later replaced with asphalt shingle.
May have been asbestos one time, but it was definitely shingle for a long time. At the time the board approved it, they thought that was probably the safest thing to do.
Yeah.
For
My
the
kid
long
went to
term.
preschool there. I thought it was metal when I went there a couple years ago.
Well, it was a few years ago.
Okay, thanks.
Any public comment? Any more comment from the board or questions?
A move to approve. Let's see, anybody from the house?
Hmm?
Okay. Move to approve HP 1651.
Okay.
Staff can, with staff recommendations.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
it's, the actual petition number is HP-20-16. I think there was some snafu in your agendas.
Yeah.
That
was
the
wondering.
HP 1651 is the original COA that approved the metal.
Okay, I'll move to approve the number that the staff intended.
1651?
No, not in 1651.
20-006.
That's been done.
Okay,
Are we clear on what number we're approving?
20-16.
16.
okay,
Thank you. All right.
that's what I meant.
Is there a second on that motion? Any public comment? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carries. Except chain link, I think, is.
What are you doing there, Jason? Or is it me?
Somebody's doing it.
Okay. All right, staff approvals, what's next? Page here. Information items?
I'd like to ask again, I know you guys were talking about it before I came in, that fence on 8th Street, the PVC fence on 8th Street, can we simply request that they come in front of us for approval? This has been going on for,
Well, has it been approved already?
no, they've never come to any of us. Code enforcement went out, right?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
They were cited by code enforcement. They came to us to try to resolve the situation, and we approved wood pickets to be attached to what was there and painted white.
So you approved the wood pickets to go on PVC, when PVC is specifically not a product that's listed in our approved materials? Okay. And may I ask why that was approved when it's PVC?
I think in an effort to try to work with the property owner, we thought that adding the wood pickets would be a good compromise. But I think after seeing some of the expressions and comments that we've heard today, from here on out, we'll make sure that we ensure that the applicants or people actually coming into the board, I think one of the issues that we've faced is that the city historically doesn't require permits for fences.
Yeah.
Which is something that we are, I believe, looking at the direction of city manager, is really relooking and revisiting that process.
Well, fences have been an ongoing problem, especially in the last 2 years when we've been absent a preservation officer as such. And it's, I think, come to a point where we need to have fences come to the board.
Absolutely.
We just been too many, there've been too many things approved that we would not have approved. That we just simply need to have fences come to the board. I mean, we get more and more of these bad examples that people are citing because they want to do another bad example. And it's just totally out of hand. So I would urge staff to from this time forward, we want to see what's going in.
Definitely.
Don't have to go through that.
Okay.
But for point of clarification, even if it clearly complies with,
Well, yes, because
A 4-foot
so many things that you
open-
felt clearly applied or were similar, that really weren't. And just like this one, where there's some assumptions made and some other things that, I mean, nobody's a more dedicated and competent staff person in planning than you are. You've been great for years and years and years. Understanding this is not your area of training, and there've just been some major problems. And I'm not faulting you, but there've been some major problems of items that have been approved that the board would never have approved in the last 2 years. And so I just feel like, yes, we want to, it's our job to serve the public, be cooperative, try to work with these people, but understand we have a job to do here, and a lot of stuff is falling through the cracks and causing problems. So because of that, I think fences need to come to the board.
Okay. I think that concludes board member comment. Can we go back to informational item now?
yes, Mr. Chairman, this is information item A about a proposed new building in the Northeast Residential Historic District at 203 Northeast First Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Mick Richmond, I'm an architect representing Myers-Briggs Foundation, and who have purchased the property at Northeast First Street, 203 Northeast First Street, just actually right across the street here. I'm going to see if I can operate this. So here's a view of the aerial view of the property and the here it is. And so the property is this area here. They've also, as part of this property, there's a parking area, like a parking lot on this side of the street over here. So they've also purchased that. And this is more or less the footprint of the existing building on the site. It was I think 3 buildings. Actually, there was a building on the west side of the site. There was an older building on the further east, and then at some point there was a connecting building made, an addition made that connected the 2 buildings and made it all into one building. The idea is that this is going to be a new building. We're going to put a new building on the site, but we wanted to make sure that we're being compatible with the context. So the purpose of this presentation is to give you an idea of what our analysis of the contextual situation of the site is, look at what we have to respond to in terms of the elevation studies. So this is our building closer up, looking at it, probably recognize it. Now, on the street context, these these little marks here are basically areas where we've taken photographs on both sides of the street. So we've looked at all of the contextual, all the buildings sort of in this area here, the buildings across the street, and then this one, and then sort of looked at that elevation there. This is our schematic level plans for the building. So the first we're basically going in the same, more or less the same footprint, but the needs of the organization are that they do need more space, so we are going to make it a 2-story building now. I'll just take you through the plan real quick. There's some offices. We've got a reception. Now, we recognize that some of the people that are going to be entering this building will be coming in sort of from First Street. But because the parking lot is up in this area, some people will kind of be filtering through the backside of the property. There is an existing, really nicely developed oak tree in the middle of the site that we're going to do everything we can to keep and turn that into a sort of a courtyard area. The desire is to have some open space for sort of breakout activities on the property. The Myers-Briggs Foundation does training sessions once a month for about the training sessions last for about a week. So those would be happening on the first floor, the more public areas. The main training room here, the breakout room here, reception here. And the idea is that when they do breakout sessions, a lot of times people will kind of come out into this area and we'll set up some spaces for them to inhabit. Then operations and library happen up here. They're the people. They're the group that sort of run the operations, and IT, and their mail functions are on the back side of the property. Second floor is administrative offices, creative offices, business offices, and financial. So they're the less public spaces. The plan is the desire to have actually this part of the second floor be sort of open roof deck with, so that's occupiable roof deck. The building has currently on it is covered with solar panels. Those are going to be removed and replaced back on this building at the end of the project. So going up the street, we just went through and started taking photographs. So this is the street. Let's go back to the north of the building on the same side of the street. So we've got a series of one-story buildings. This is right next door to the site. And we were just commenting that this is a very, very short building.
Yeah.
If you look at where the door is and look at where the roof is, that's probably 10, the roof is at 10 feet. And then this is the existing building on our site, but we're still trying to find sort of these lines and find these registration lines and so what's going on the other side of the street. On the other side of the street is Purvis Gray offices. It is a two-story mid-century modern building. We actually, so we've kind of looked at that one, and then I'm not sure what this building here is rental offices, but we started picking up on sort of some of the lines, the common lines that we started seeing there. I had somebody in my office kind of go through. Now we were actually looking at this building, sort of the way the entrance sort of works. You know, some of the, maybe even some of the thematic elements of some of these buildings could be picked up on and sort of reused in our building in a more sort of contemporary fashion. And of course, we've got Holy Trinity across the street, catty corner from us. This is the second level and the parking below. Across the street from us to the west, and so in a line starting here like that. And then of course across the street is our building, and currently that corner is obviously got a big blank wall on it. We're trying to avoid that. Purvis Gray is probably the most interesting building sort of in our immediately adjacent, architecturally speaking. One of the things we kind of picked up on this is that we've got this sort of low planted wall that sort of acts as a buffer at the street without making it feel like it's a big sort of wall against the sidewalk. So we've got let a little bit of relief in the spatial aspect. That lets the upper level kind of hang out and hold the edge, but you still don't ever feel like you're being sort of squeezed in the sidewalk. The thing we can't repeat with Purvis Gray is that they have stairs going up into the lobby, so you have steps going up, and we, due to ADA, we probably wouldn't be able to do that. We'd have to keep kind of things at street level or a ramp or something like that. So our street level is going to be a little more sort of accessible, sort of open straight off the sidewalk. But that's sort of, so we've done this for most of these elevations, is we've sort of looked at sort of where the registration line, look at where the rhythm of the windows and what we're sort of responding to. And so that's that whole elevation, including Purvis Gray, the building on the corner, and then Holy Trinity, sort of these lines. On the other side of the street, similarly, we went up the street and drew some of the same kinds of lines across. And then what we've done is we're not trying to show sort of a full-on elevation, but this sort of starts to give us an idea of what the volume and massing of the building would be with a two-story building on that site. And sort of responding to where we might actually have windows based on what the plan of the inside of the office is. And so finally, sort of blowing up, we've kind of done this analysis looking at, you know, where those lines get drawn across, where sort of the window, sort of the breaking up of the elevation. Some of these are kind of coming from looking at what the buildings across the street are actually doing, and looking at, you know, maybe sort of a contemporary take on the building across the street that has that sort of eyebrow that kind of comes up and over. Looking at where we have things like bathrooms and things where we don't want windows. One of the problems that we do have on this site is that this is a west-facing elevation. So we're also looking for ways we can shade the glass and not have the glazing sort of exposed to the western sunlight. So we don't want to heat up the interior. Southern side is a little more easy to deal with because we can put a horizontal shade over the windows and shade them pretty well. The breakout space, the owner actually, we've discussed this area right here, we're thinking of potentially doing some kind of similar kind of planted thing on the corner where we're bringing out a low wall to give you some space, because the sidewalk actually scoops out away from the wall. And if we look at the planning guidelines, you know, we have the sidewalks, we have the planning zone, the sidewalk zone, and then the building zone. And so we could actually take up part of the building zone and use it as a planted area. Try to create sort of that depth. We're also looking at potential, like, again, I don't want to make this seem like this is the elevation. These are just sort of studies of what the functions in the building are going on behind. So I had my one of our drafters sort of color code things, where we have sort of stairs and sort of vertical elements, and that sort of thing. So the breakout room, this on the corner here was the one space they did want to open up. They wanted to have people walk by and sort of see activity going on there, so go on by and see sort of people at the tables and discussing things. Because part of the goal, or part of one of the aspirations of the foundation, is to actually use this on the 3 weeks of the month that it's not being used for their training, is actually to open it up to other partnerships and let other people use the space. So this is actually kind of an advertisement for what would go on in that space. The training room's a little more private, so we're trying to provide natural light in the space without having sort of people on display as much in that room. And of course, upstairs we do want a lot of open. We want glazing because that's the offices. It's mostly offices. The backside, actually, we did gather up a lot of the spaces on the ground floor, sort of facing into the courtyard on the east side, because we felt like that would be a nicer view. So that's our plan for now. We hope to come back in the next board meeting, or maybe the meeting after that, with more fully developed things. But we did want to try to get some of your input and your feedback before we went back and developed these further.
Okay.
Well, I for one really like the direction you're going with this. I'm wondering, at this point, have you gotten into a sense of the materials that you have in mind?
We have looked at materials, so the building skin that we're considering at this point is going to be sort of a rain screen type of system. So we have some options as to how we can tailor the textures and the colors of the exterior skin. Also, we can start to pick up some of these sort of registrations as sort of joints in the rain screen. We have not chosen a palette. We really don't know. There probably will be some other, and we probably might probably would come back in also with some heavier materials, masonry, as well to sort of offset the lighter, sort of smoother things. So no, and sort of some contrasting light and dark colors. But we haven't really started to actually dig into that, start to come up with a palette yet. Trying to establish the criteria at this point.
Have you made any considerations for the second street side of the building, given that it faces residential homes for noise and sound and light? Not the second Ave, the
Second
second,
Avenue,
the second
act-
street, which is
Second Street
be the east.
A house and so.
on the east side?
Yeah, and behind the parking lot is multifamily.
No,
There's only one.
I'll go back
house.
to
no,
the
it's
site plan.
a lot,
Uh,
a second floor, looks like a garage apartment.
So,
Immediately east of the,
right here?
yeah. right
Yeah,
here.
well, the parking lot, the single family and there's a parking lot, and right behind the parking lot is a three-story or two-story
Oh,
residence.
yeah, well, that's over on Third Street. Boderford.
So you're talking about this
Yes.
area here. So our building's basically gonna stop before we even get to that corner. And the whole, this is Chris Gamura's land here. So what we're planning for this area here is we're planning to have on the site plan a sort of a bioswale so that our stormwater is handled in a little bit more of a formalized sort of garden situation. So this will be a recessed area in the ground, but it'll all be planted. To maintain sort of safety and stuff along the edges, that'll obviously have to have a railing because it's going to be a drop off, probably more than 30 inches along the street. So that'll be handled that way. And the rest of the site, we are planning on treating as sort of more of a courtyard and not a parking lot.
Which it is today.
Which it is now. The notion is that this is going to be sort of mostly occupiable space, like almost like you can use it. You see people out there having lunch, kind of thing. And currently, what we find, and when we've all been on the site doing our field investigations, this is parking, and the property next door has parking in the back, and then the property to even on the other side of the street to the north. People cut through here all the time, walking back and forth. So
I don't blame them.
And I don't blame them. I would too. But we're trying to make this a little bit more of a. It's not. It's not sort of open to the public, but at least when you're walking by, you look and you see more of a garden type atmosphere.
Well, I was going to suggest maybe a historic style garden versus Charleston Savannah style, semi-walled in, where you can kind of see into it, but you got to think in terms of security too.
We are thinking of that. As a matter of fact, there's a connection through to the neighboring property right about here, and we're going to have a discussion about what happens there.
Yeah.
Because the parking seems to be shared right now.
Yeah.
So what happens along this edge is still kind of in development, and probably what happens along here is in development a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's a good direction though, but
Yeah.
you look at the historic cities for precedent that you could maybe do a contemporary version of.
And we do have a landscape architect on board to sort of help with the planning of it.
Good.
I want to say just a couple things. Sure. So, being a civil engineer, being very much into the technical aspects of the application. One thing that was, go ahead.
Could you introduce yourself?
Oh, yes, my name is Chris Gamir with Gamir Engineering. I started my firm about 4 years ago in the area, but lots of history in front of you all, in front of the city of Gainesville. One thing that was very interesting, sort of brought up in our first step meeting with staff, was we're developing underneath the form-based code, and the whole point of the form-based code is really encourage density. And almost every project done in the form-based code has been these multiple story, 4 or 5 story buildings, and that's not what we're doing here. And so we're sort of reconciling those things. So some of the things we're going to come to you for waivers is, for example, there's a certain minimum percentage of frontage along each road frontage, and our site, being an en bloc site, has 3 road frontages. So part of our approval with you all will be have
a few, maybe 2, maybe 3, we're not really sure yet, waivers to some of those requirements because they're envisioning in a whole block being sort of a monolithic development, which we're not. We're still trying to keep some of the development by having it 2-story near the front, creating that street relationship with the building. Matter of fact, the code actually has us getting that existing building away from the street because it's really claustrophobic in a couple places, not very pedestrian friendly the way it is today. But thinking about that, normally we put stormwater underground in some of the form-based code, but we have the room here to do something more interesting. And so we're sort of getting that intermediate transition between really high urban development and going into the historic neighborhood with concerns with the residential areas in the back. I don't think the code requires anything special, but I think we have a unique case in this, with this kind of client that they're really looking forward to something like that.
Well, I'll make a comment. That what you're proposing here is significantly more friendly to the neighborhood than what's there now.
Correct.
The only thing that I would say, this goes to your question on materials, it would be nice if some of the materials reflected other materials that are currently existing along the street, when you talk about your masonry and stuff.
Right.
Because I see so many of these new buildings going up like on University that don't have any connection to the old neighborhoods at all.
Or the downtown core.
Or the downtown, right. And they're smack up against the sidewalk and there's no soft space and there's, you know, none of that. So it's nice to hear that you're taking all that into consideration.
Yeah, thank you for your foresight and coming here.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, more feedback, better.
Yeah, the more we find out, the better.
Oh, don't you worry.
Well,
We're
earlier
gonna know
the
each
better,
other
too.
really well.
Yeah, well, we don't get too far along and then maybe misinterpret your
It's-
ideas.
Yeah, we would rather have the feedback and the information now than after we've gone a long ways into it.
Just don't build a fence.
Yeah.
I have
PVC.
learned that today.
Especially out of PVC.
There won't be any PVC fences on this property.
Good to know.
I can guarantee it.
Okay, anybody else?
Again, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to seeing it next time.
It's
All
gonna be a
right.
cool project.
Yeah. It's gonna look nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. Put the oven for a wall because a lot of people sleeping in that park. You know.
Okay, we got board member comments, so next meeting, we're done, Jason? Is that- We're adjourned.